Hello everybody, it's Wyvern here, back with another Total War Warhammer 2 community cast. And this time around, it is a match sent in by a friend of mine, Triarii, squaring off against friend and fellow YouTuber Atticus. And it is definitely looking to be a bit of a grudge match, because we're here on the Northern Chaos Wastes with the High Elves squaring off against the Dark Elf forces from the Blessed Dread. And so it's definitely time for a grudging, as the dwarves would say. And these two sides are looking to go bare knuckle brawl, fisticuffs immediately. Both builds definitely looking very aggressive. Almost no missile play on either side. The only missile play, not really a missile play, with that Cold One Chariot over there. And it's definitely looking to be a bit exciting right off the bat. Now, going over the compositions, the High Elves, who didn't bring any archers, looking to just go all in, really want that revenge for all their fallen and enslaved kin, coming in with Alariel the Radiant. And so the Everqueen, she is going to be leading an interesting double caster composition here. Her only spell, Earthblood, she is of course providing some great AoE support with Shieldstone of Isha, the Boon of Isha, providing additional immune psychology and magic damage. Both very great abilities. She also does have the Star of Avalorn, so this powerful sort of block of Fireborn and Dragon Princes is going to be getting some insane healing support. She also does have Life Bloom as well as Shield of Sapphire, providing buffs whenever she casts. And interesting choice here with the State of Avalorn, so perhaps looking to get a little more Winds of Magic as well as reduce her miscast chance, which you never know, sometimes it can make a bit of a difference. Alongside her, there is a Mage of Light who's only brought Baroness Time Warp, so we are going to be getting a bit aggressive. These High Elves really not holding anything back. It's not something you see every day. And Baroness Time Warp, potentially a huge buff to mobility as well as a melee attack, especially melee attack. Has a huge area. I do believe when overcast, it provides 55-meter area AoE, which is pretty nuts. And potentially going to be buffing these white lines through the roof, making them an absolutely killer force. The front line here, composed, as mentioned just now, of white lines, as well as the Pure Main Company, Regiment of Renown, who provide armor sundering, potentially great synergy with the Silver Helms, as well as the Dragon Princes. The flanks secured by Spearmen, and the Silver Helms here, both unshielded, but a very good choice in my opinion. They provide you with some sheep support to deal with, say, Sister of Slaughter, to break up enemy heavy cavalry or enemy chariots that might be trying to bully your white lines, or enemy lords, that sort of thing. These guys just give you that mass and stopping power, and it's a very strong combo. It works in other matchups as well, like Empire, for example, or Bretonnia. Definitely do some potent stuff. Alongside them, we do have 2 units of Illyrian Reavers here on the flank, looking to scout and potentially harass. Had there been a backline, maybe they'd have a bit more of a job, but unfortunately there is not. So things are looking to get pretty bloody very quickly. Now for Atticus over here, his composition is also just looking to go bare knuckles and slug it out as quickly as possible. Lokir Fellheart here, coming in on foot with the red blades of End here. And he's got quite the kit as well. He's got the Merciless Slaver debuffing enemy leadership, Helm of the Kraken healing him as well as providing melee defense when he's in melee, Foe Seeker, a Deadly Onslaught, as well as Dreaded Duelist. So he's got a whole selection of buffs and improvements, and he's going to be able to dish out some hurt, especially to this pretty hefty front line. Now for the for support here, we do have a Sorceress of Beast who does have the transformation, or sorry, the transformation of Kadon to provide that Manticore summon. Amber Spear, great ability against elite infantry or elite cav, can really do huge amounts of work. Flock of Doom to melt infantry further. Darkstar Cloak for the Winds of Magic, and Wild Heart. And she is also coming in on foot, so definitely a bit of a safe pick here. Just staying cautious, staying on foot, and avoiding potentially overwhelming damage. Finally, we do have a Death Hag who is also on foot, and she's simply got the Chill Blade, looking to apply those melee attack debuffs in combat, and perhaps that's going to even the tide here against these White Lions. So we've got some melee attack debuffs against a lot of melee attack buffs, so it's definitely going to be interesting. Bleak Swords do make up the front line, sort of screening for the more elite Blackheart Corsairs, as well as the Sister of Slaughter. Definitely, I think the Dark Elves have a bit of an edge against the White Lions, but of course, with backing from Magic, with backing from the Silver Helms, things could definitely shake up in either direction. In the meantime, on the periphery, we do have a single unit of Cold One Chariots who could potentially overrun that enemy infantry, that High Elf infantry, and 3 units of Cold One Knights. And these guys are pushing right into the Illyrian Reavers, who are not being microwaved right now. And in they go. The Illyrian Reavers are getting caught out, and they are immediately taking damage. These Cold One Knights, you're sitting and watching. So definitely a bit of a sort of moment of pause, as both sides are most likely focused over here on this slugfest that's going down in the front line. You can see already Baroness Time Warp going into effect. Unfortunately, casted here in the back line, probably should have been casted closer to the front. But of course, these white lines just mincing through the Bleak Swords, demolishing them, and the Sister of Slaughter getting run over by the Silver Helms. That's just what we were discussing early on, how much damage the Silver Helms could do in that fight. In the meantime, the Feral Manticore is summoned, and you can see that over here, the Spearmen are getting a very cost-efficient trade because they're bogging down Black Corsairs as well as Bleak Swords. In the meantime, Alariel and those elites are swinging around to this flank to engage those Cold One Knights. There are Bleak Swords coming in, but these chariots are way out of their league. This is really not where they want to be. And Illyrian Reavers are getting dumpstered, but Alariel is providing buffs to these Fireborn, keeping them in the fray, and these Cold One Knights are having a horrible time of it, getting torn to shreds. This is where the Fireborn are on to be. Only 2 models lost so far. This is on Ultra setting, by the way, but only 2 models lost so far. These guys just doing insane work, and already these Cold War Knights are broken and routing. And you can see here, Triarii does disengage, a very cautious play, and very good play, getting away from those Bleak Swords. There's no point in bleeding HP for nothing, though you can see the poor Mage of Light there getting dove upon by that Manticore. In the meantime, the front line fight is going in, well, I would say undecided fashion. The Silverhelms did manage to crump the Sister of Slaughter, but then did get caught out. Obviously, there's a lot of micro going on, so there's a huge fight over here with this cavalry, but then there's also this huge fight going in the pits. And the High Elves are definitely starting to take, I think, the loss here. With the cavalry routed off, they are definitely going to be in a much weaker position against the Sister of Slaughter, who are just such a potent grinding tool. And now with Murderous Prowess or Murderous Mastery, depending on which unit it is, proccing, they're going to be in a much more potent spot. You can see they're going to slow these white lines, they're going to bog them down, and things are going to start looking a bit more grim for the High Elves. Unfortunately for the Dark Elves, though, it is quite possible that the win condition is really here with this cavalry and this infantry, because if you can deal with the cavalry, already we've seen both of the Manticore summons utilized, trying to break up this charge of the white lines. But if the cavalry here is removed, and you can see the Dragon Princes piling in from all sides, crushing these Cold One Knights, if this cavalry fight is won, if this Manticore is killed, these Bleak Swords, they're Bleak Swords, they don't really matter, but if they're gone, then the rest of this Dark Elf force is going to be at the mercy of High Elf cycle charging, and that could potentially be disastrous. So, despite this balance of power being decisively in the Dark Elf's favor right now, it is something to be considering. Murderous Prowess is slowly but surely expiring, and you can see more buffs going down. Barona's Time Work buffing this whole blob of High Elf Cav, just allowing them to decimate their Dark Elf peers, and they are not able to stand up to this. Over here, the Silverhelms are going to crash into the Cold One Knights. Normally a pretty terrible trade for the Silverhelms, but because the Cold One Knights are so bloodied, the Silverhelms might actually be able to scrape through here. Maybe not. Maybe not, but they're definitely going to be doing quite a bit of damage. Rampaging these guys, weakening them, and buying time for the Dragon Princes to win their fight over here. In the meantime, the poor High Elf front line has been dumpstered. It's basically gone. A few white lions here routing. One of the good things is that white lions are relatively nippy at 33 speed. They will be able to rally as long as these Black Corsairs don't get on top of them or the Sister Slaughter. And so because of that, the High Elves are going to be able to start rallying in the distance. These Silverhelms staying cautious and keeping out of the fight. This is crucial. You don't want to engage in a position where it could be disastrous. These guys, if they get caught, if they get, say, snared down by the Sister Slaughter who do apply poison, it could be a mess for the Silverhelms. The Silverhelms are going to come in here, get a cheeky charge on these Black Corsairs, help their White Lion brethren. Over here, the Silverhelms were routed, but in the pits, the Cold One Knights are basically gone. Fireborn is still on relatively good health at 2,000 HP. The Dragon Prince is here on about 2,000 HP. Illyrian Reavers. This blob is in a grim spot because right now they can be cycle charged, they can be decimated, and they're definitely going to be, could be in a bad spot. There's also the fact that the High Elves are rallying in the distance. You can see these white lines moving to re-engage on the Black Corsairs who are running down their brethren over here. More white lines, the Pure Main Company rallying over here, and all this Dark Elf force is trying to collapse in on the cavalry, but they're not really able to catch them, and so the High Elves get a bunch of free chases here. They chase off all this cav, and there's no more mass really for the Dark Elves, for the Blessed Dread to rally against them. Now over here, definitely a bit of mismicro with the Silverhelms. They are going to dive in against the Bleak Swords and take a bit of a pounding. Loki are getting in there, smacking one of them down with those red blades of Ind. But in the meantime, the Silverhelms are still alive. They're going to get out of there. The White Lions here should beat down the Black Corsairs. I want to believe they should. I think they should, but they might not at the rate this is going. Though we might get a meaty charge in there with the Silverhelms, and that could definitely swing the tide. Elsewhere in the meantime, Alariel as well as her Goon Squad here, baiting out the Cold One Riders or Cold One Knights and routing them off. So these guys are now in full flight. These Cold One Knights down to 2 models and somehow not broken. So insane resilience. Both sides, of course, out for blood. So they're just not going to go quietly into this good night. We can see a Flock of Doom going down here. Perhaps, in my opinion, this should have been held off. I think Flock of Doom would have been better, or it would have been better to try to save Winds of Magic, or maybe get an Amber Spear here, pick off a few models, especially when they're lined up like this. This is like a beautiful shot. If we go in to ground level here, if you get a shot on like the rear of these Dragon Princes, you could get, an easy 7, 8, 10 models. It's like a cannonball ripping through them. And that would be huge. And that's something Alariel can't heal either. That said, the Cold One Knights do actually manage to rally, so definitely some benefit to having this big blob. And Atticus is playing very cautiously with these guys, trying to stay grouped. And if these cavalry commits, he's going to be able to push back in with the Cold One Knights and hopefully at least keep them kind of in place. That said, the Dragon Princes there do sort of dip in, run over some of those Sisters of Slaughter, do quite a bit of damage, and then just plow through. Illyrian Reavers following up, and now the Fireborn collapsing from all sides. And things are definitely not looking too hot for the poor Dark Elves all of a sudden. Out on the periphery, the White Lions have actually lost. I'm not sure if they lost the Black Corsairs. I was missing it. But the Bleak Swords have probably ensured the loss there. These White Lions routed off, though, at 147 kills. They've done some insane work this day. But here in the pits, it's definitely swinging in the High Elves' favor. We don't have Lokir here to provide his buffs and his support. We only have Alariel, and she's providing that physical resist to all of these units. She's got the Star of Avalorn. Unfortunately, it's not hitting too many units, but it's definitely providing some heals. Barona's Time Warp buffing these High Elf troops through the roof. And it's a chain sort of effect. It's a snowball effect. There was a lot of weakened units here, and with every routing unit, we're going to see that leadership buckle. If we look here, you can see Friends routing -3, so it's actually not too severe right now, but as more units route, it's going to get even more and more severe. You can see now these Sisters of Slaughter are going to route, and things are going to snowball here. Friends routing, -9 now. And suddenly this pocket is decimated, and all that's left is this Death Hag, and she's a good combatant, don't get me wrong, but specializing against infantry, there isn't infantry around her, and she's now getting butchered by Alariel, who's not a pushover, does have magic attacks to bypass that physical resist, and is just going to lay the smackdown on this old witch. And suddenly things are looking very grim. You can see Balance of Power swung decisively in the High Elves' favor, and that is going to be GG called, because at this point all Atticus is left is Lokir, as well as those Bleak Swords, and those would be susceptible to cycle charging in this late game stage. So very well played to both players. Definitely a fun, sort of intense, and fast-paced match. There was just a lot of stuff going on. Two very significant engagements going off at essentially the same time. So obviously there were some micro slip-ups. It happens. It's what happens when you got a lot to micro. But definitely some cool stuff. I do think one of the mistakes for Atticus here was the fact that he committed his Cold One Knights into a brawl against a superior enemy force. In my opinion, they should have been held back. He had a guarantee. That frontline fight was going to go his way, almost guaranteed. Sister of Slaughter are amazing. They will dumpster White Lions. They will dumpster Spearmen. They will, honestly, if the Silver Helms get stuck in there, they will dumpster Silver Helms too. They're very, very powerful. Similarly, the Black Corsairs, they can crush those spears, so potentially you can get those Sisters of Slaughter to butcher the White Lions. In the meantime, the Spearmen get destroyed by the Black Corsairs. Bleak Swords are just cannon fodder. They'll buy you time, and that's really what matters. But unfortunately, Atticus did commit those Cold One Knights early. Now, he got a great pick there, snagging the two Illyrian Reavers, essentially wiping both units out. The one unit did bounce back and get some picks later on, but essentially both Illyrian Reavers got wrecked. But after that, they got caught out, and there was no supporting magic. Having a sorceress on foot obviously does come with the disadvantage of low mobility, so they weren't. So there wasn't really the potential to support the Cold One Knights with, say, Curse of Honorair, which would have been great at removing that Barona's Time Warp or undoing it. So perhaps I think what would have been better here was just for Atticus to hold back, keep his Cold One Knights behind his main line, and use them as a reserve to sort of push through, because Triarii here definitely had to commit with his Silver Helms as well as his Dragon Princes, or especially the Silver Helms, to break up that infantry, because the infantry fight was not going to go his way without that cavalry intervening. Otherwise, very cool to see a double caster build. Definitely cool to see a lot of foot lords and heroes, which is something you don't see very often. So definitely a bit of a risky pick, but at the same time, potentially can be rewarding because they are very tanky and relatively cheap. Look here, almost indestructible with his regen and his high melee defense. And the leadership are most likely helping break that pocket a little bit faster, especially with the Manticore summons, which were providing terror. The Death Hag, bit of an interesting pick. I do think that while she can do a bit of damage, that definitely a bit expensive if you don't bring her on a Cauldron, which in my opinion boosts her damage by a much more significant amount or makes her much more efficient. But definitely cool build. Cool to see Lore of Beasts used with a nice mix of Kadon as well as a Flock of Doom and Amber Spear. Should mention, I actually forgot he didn't have Curse of Honor, so he couldn't do that to debuff. But there was definitely other things, like, for example, the Flock of Doom could have been dropped on that cavalry fight or that sort of thing. Or an Amber Spear would have been very nice. I think that's another thing that you could do here with is pick away at the high elf cap with Amber Spear. Obviously, Deathcaster with say Spirit Leech is a more consistent way of doing that. But Amber Spear, nasty stuff, can destroy models. You can, especially if you get a beautiful say side shot or rear shot when they're in a line, you can easily kill like half a dozen models in a single volley. It's definitely some potency there. But definitely very well played to both players. Very cool builds. It's always fun to see just a good old-fashioned slugfest. You don't. A lot of times people will bring like sort of finicky builds with Shadow Warriors or Leader Reavers, try to kite the Dark Elf player, or you'll see some sort of monster mash. But it was cool to see two very brawl-oriented or melee-oriented armies and just going at it and just fighting for that positioning, fighting for that micro, and it was really cool to see. So very well played to both players. If you guys have not checked out Atticus' channel, be sure to check him out. I will leave a link in the description below. He posts a lot of great content and is definitely worth checking out. Thank you to Triarii for submitting the replay. I hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you found it entertaining and fun. If you enjoy more of this content, be sure to let me know. You can submit your replays, and I'll leave an email in the description below. I do thank you all for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. Wyvern out.